CIE Foundation Portfolio Compulsory Question 4. How did you integrate technologies, software, hardware and online in this project? At the beginning of the film, you see the names of the filmmakers and their candidate numbers come up. We made these name cards on Adobe After Effects and then exported them into Premiere Pro so that they did not appear grainy to the audience and thus detract from the film. You can also hear the music and sound effects in the background, and this is to add to the film and convey the conventions of genre to the audience. The audience can hear the ticking clock noise, and this is to convey the audience that there is counting down to something, and this immediately acts as a hook for the audience. The music in the background was made using software called Soundtrap. We used Soundtrap to create our own music as we were unable to find a piece of music that fitted with our opening sequence of the film and the hybridity of the genre that we were going for. We made the soundtrack on the website Soundtrap and then exported it as an MP3 file and then imported it into Premiere Pro and placed it on the timeline and cut and edited it to the correct time of our film. Distortion pictures also came up, and we originally created this using the website DaFont, in which we entered our text into the site and it gave us the text that we desired. However, we chose not to include the font from DaFont as it did not fit with our genre and actually detracted from the film. So we chose to go with a clean and simple font so it does not detract from the film and made it look more professional. We created the title of the film on Adobe After Effects and we then imported it into Premiere Pro. For Empowered, we created this title of the film, again on Adobe After Effects, and we imported the target sign to act as the O of Empowered, and this links to the idea of Samantha as our main protagonist being the target of our main villain, Jay, who is stalking her throughout the film. We then created the letter fading sequence, also on Adobe After Effects, and we then exported it into Premiere Pro and uploaded it to our timeline. We chose for the target symbol / the letter O to fade out last, as it again links to the idea of being a target and conveys our genre to the audience. We filmed all the footage for the film on a Panasonic Digital HD camcorder, and this integrated hardware into our film. During the sequence of Samantha working at home, we use the laptop, which is hardware, as a prop, and this allows the audience to see that Samantha is hard at work and conveys the idea to the audience that Samantha is a hard-working individual. When Jay's hand smacks against the glass, we recorded this on a Panasonic camera. But we also then filmed it again, but this time we just recorded the sound of the hand hitting the glass, and we then imported it into Premiere Pro and unlinked the footage and the sound and added it to the timeline. We did this so that the sound of the hand hitting the glass would be louder and reinforce the idea of the thriller genre to the audience. When the creaky floorboard sound comes in, we made this again using Soundtrap, and we used their sound effect of a creaking floor and then converted it into an MP3 file and imported it into Premiere Pro and then uploaded it to the timeline and overlaid the sound effect on top of the sound of the film. For the walking on glass scene, where we recorded the scene normally and then again just recorded the sound of the glass being walked on and then imported this into Premiere Pro and then overlaid it onto the timeline to make sure that the sound of glass was dominant in the scene. For the screaming, we recorded the screaming separately on an iPhone and then imported it into Premiere Pro so that we would be able to edit it onto our timeline, but it also allowed us to change the volume of the scream using keyframes so that it was not too loud, and when we had it as a loud scream, it actually detracted from the film rather than adding to it. 3 days ago title card was made on Adobe After Effects using the same simple font as the production company title card. We also added the effect of the letters sequencing out on After Effects, And this is to reinforce to the audience the idea of everything is spiraling out of control. And this also links to Todorov's theory, as the audience are presented with an equilibrium of Samantha working normally, and then they get presented with the disequilibrium of Jay entering her house and hearing screams of Samantha but not knowing what happened to her.
Good morning all. My name is Samantha Greenway and I am the leader of the Female Equality Party.
During the scene where Samantha is giving her speech on female equality, we make use of 3 Nikon cameras which fall under the category of hardware. We use the cameras as props to act as if reporters were taking photos of her to make the scene look more realistic to the audience. We also used YouTube to source the sound effect of people muttering, and we did this by using an MP3 converter and then importing that MP3 file into Premiere Pro, so we were able to change the volume of the sound effects so that it would not overpower the scene or Samantha's speech.
I'm here to discuss one of the most prevalent issues facing our society today: inequality.
For the name cards, we used Adobe After Effects, and we used the same font as the Empower title card to show that there is a clear link. When there was an E or an O in the person's name, we did it in the same style of the title card, as we used the large E or we used the target O. Once we had finished making the name cards on Adobe After Effects, we had to remove the background from them so that when we imported them into Premiere Pro, they would not block off any of our sequence.
I am tired of experiencing the everyday discrimination against women. Consistently, women are paid less than men for doing exactly.
We again had the name cards sequence out like the 3 days ago sign to thus reinforce the audience that they still don't know what has happened to Samantha Greenway and convey the ideas of genre.
Same job. This is illegal. This is unfair.
We used color corrector filters on all of the film to create verisimilitude field to the film and to make it seem more film and professional-like. We also used YouTube to source the music. We also used the song Welcome to Lunar Industries for the second half of the opening sequence, and we used an MP3 converter to convert the YouTube link into an MP3 file so that we could upload it to Premiere Pro and add it to the timeline, overlay the song with our footage. To make the campaign flyers, we used Photoshop to insert the image of Samantha Greenway onto the flyer, and we then added text to the flyer, and we then imported it into Microsoft Word and printed out multiple copies and then cut them up for Samantha to hand out. During the scenes when Samantha is talking to Jay, we lowered the volume of the background noise using keyframes. And we did this to convey to the audience that Jay isn't taking anything she is saying, he is just staring at her and thinking about what he's going to do. We used the editing tool in Premiere Pro to add the fade to white effect to indicate to the audience that the flashback is occurring. And we also used the black and white filter to further reinforce the audience that a flashback is occurring.
My name is Samantha Greenway and I'm actually the leader of this party, the Female Equality Party.
We also created an Instagram account for Samantha, which is seen in this flashback scene, and this is an example of online integration.
I follow you on Instagram, Samantha. Oh, that's really cool. I appreciate all my followers. Thank you for following me.
We again made use of an iPhone to show to the audience how far Jay will go to try and get her attention, and this is again another form of hardware integration. We use the fade to white tool and the black and white tool again to show that the flashback is occurring. In that flashback, we also used a Nikon D90 camera in this scene as it conveys to the audience that Jay is following Samantha in every move she takes and photographs her to reinforce the genre and the thriller theme of the film. At the end of the sequence, we also used the fade to black tool, and this indicates the audience that this scene is over, and it also leaves them with many enigma codes as they're left wondering what happened to Samantha and why did Jay do it. Throughout this project, I've also created a Wix website to create a blog on all the processes I have taken to create the final film. I've also made use of the website Prezi when I answered compulsory question 1 for my coursework, and I've also made use of the website Vimeo, as this is how I uploaded the film to my blog.